Hello, are you a Virgo parent with a Sagittarius child? Do you find your Sagittarius child a little bit challenging to understand? Do you have some challenges interacting with them? Would like to know more about them? Well, stay tuned because that is what we're talking about today. Hello, I'm Maria Riegger, your resident Gemini, and this is Positive Parenting with Astrology. And today's episode is all about how to parent your Sagittarius child when you're a Virgo mom or Virgo dad. This video is at the request of a viewer. This is a very interesting energy dynamic. The energies are very different, and we're going to get into it today. First, if you missed my playlist on Sagittarius children, how to parent Sagittarius kids, that link is below in the video description. So here's where we're going today. First, I'm going to give you an overview of Virgo energy, then an overview of Sagittarius energy. Then we're going to hit the main points in the dynamic between these two energies. Now, remember, when we're talking about these energies, clearly we do not have the benefit of a birth chart or birth charts plural in front of us. We're talking about these energies in their purest sense, in their purest form, kind of in a vacuum. So clearly we would take the whole chart into consideration. There may be more energies at play, but we're going to be talking about kind of the main things to be aware of as a Virgo parent parenting a Sagittarius child. Now, Virgo is an interesting energy. It's an earth sign, so it's a feminine energy sign, but it's a mutable sign. It's kind of weird to think about. When we think about earth energy, we think about a very grounded, stabilizing energy. And mutable, clearly, a mutable energy can take the form of more cardinal or more fixed. It changes. It's mutable, right? It's in the name. So it's an interesting energy. It's a mutable earth sign. So like we said, feminine energy sign. It's a dependable sign, very grounding, stabilizing presence. Virgo is an energy that is very meticulous. It is about being detail oriented. It is about perfectionism. It is about analysis and precision. And when we talk about precision, largely we're talking about precision of meticulousness in accomplishing activities, but also precision of language. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, like Gemini. That's the other sign that's ruled by Mercury. So you can expect a Virgo person to call out when people are not being precise when they're articulating things verbally. Virgo is about really getting precise with the language and parsing out ideas. It's very similar to Gemini energy in that respect. I did a whole video just on that trait about Gemini, and Virgo is similar. Same ruling planet. So it is about precision of language. Highly analytical energy. It's also about being practical. It's an earth sign, so it's resource oriented. And like the other earth signs, can be bossy, can be stubborn. Now we're going to an overview of Sagittarius energy. If you've seen my other episodes on Sagittarius energy, this will be a review for you. Sagittarius is a mutable fire. So like Virgo, it's mutable. So if you saw my video on parenting Sag when you're a Capricorn parent, or parenting Capricorn when you're a Sag parent, there is a little bit more commonality here. Not a lot, just a little bit, because both Sag and Virgo are mutable, okay? So that's the big difference between Sag and Cap. Cap's cardinal. So being a fire sign, Sag is ego-oriented. It is a masculine energy sign. It is an energy about physically accomplishing tasks, doing things. It is an energy that always wants to be in motion. I find through my practice and my experience, Sag is a little bit more open-minded than Aries and Leo. Leo is fixed fire, ruled by the sun. Think of the sun, right? So Leo can be a little bit more set in their ways, but Sag tends to be more open-minded than both Aries and Leo. Nevertheless, it is still a fire sign and still ego-oriented. That means that it has more difficulty putting itself in the shoes of the other person. That's all fire people. Not necessarily a bad thing, right? It is just the nature of the sign. Now, like other fire signs, Sag can also be stubborn. Here we start to see a little bit of friction because Virgo is about precision, is about perfectionism, likes to be right, right? All the earth signs do. Sag likes to be right. Also very opinionated, very stubborn. Sag people will often say, I have no filter when I speak. They're like bluntly honest, okay? So Virgo is a little bit more reserved and stoic energy, and Sag is outwardly expressive. That's one of the big dynamics we're going to talk about in a few minutes. So, like we said, Sag is very outwardly expressive. Sag people wear their emotions on their sleeves. If they're happy, you'll know. If they're upset, you'll know. They tend to externalize, right? So Virgo tends to internalize more. So as the Virgo parent in this dynamic, you may be easily able to read your Sag kid because their emotions are on their sleeves. Like they're very outwardly expressive with what they're feeling. On the flip side, though, your Sag kid may have more of a difficult time reading you, the parent, and understanding what your expectations are of them if you are not being clear about it. That's another thing we're going to touch on in a few minutes. Sag is also, like the other fire signs, very physically affectionate, which is a great thing for parents because we want to be as physically affectionate with our kids for as long as possible, especially the moms, right? So now we're going to get into the main areas in the dynamic between these two signs. So as we just mentioned, Virgo is an energy that tends to internalize more. Sag tends to externalize its feelings more. This may end up, you may end up with a situation where the Sag kid is finding the Virgo parent hard to read. And for somebody like Sag, who is very outwardly expressive, means what they say, says what they mean for the most part, is bluntly honest, right? They may find that very challenging when interacting with the parent because they may not understand right away the expectations the Virgo parent wants from the kid, right? So one big piece of advice I can give a Virgo parent in this situation when parenting a Sag kid is to be very clear about expectations for school, for structure, for chores, all those things. This should not be that big of an ask for Virgo because, like we said, Virgo is about precision of language, clarity of language, parsing things out, right? So Virgo certainly has the capability to be clear about expectations. But because the energy tends to be internally focused, more introspective, you may think you are being clear as a Virgo parent, but you to the Sag kid may not be as clear as you think, especially because kids do not yet have the sophistication, either in terms of linguistic capability or emotional intelligence or body language. They may not yet have the sophistication to read all those things and grasp all those concepts like adults do. So you have to be very clear with your Sag kid about expectations. And also make sure your expectations are reasonable. They are appropriate to the age and development of the Sag child. Now, the next big area I want to talk about is probably no surprise. Virgo, as we said, is about precision, meticulousness, duty, also loyalty. Sag is also very loyal, by the way, generally speaking. Perfectionism, right? Pays attention to detail, gets mired in the details. Sag is about big picture. Remember, Sagittarius is the philosopher of the zodiac. It's associated with the ninth house. It's about higher consciousness, kind of how everything fits into the universe. It is essentially about big picture. So this is another potential area of friction where the two energies may have more of a challenging time understanding each other. However, when this works very well because it's complementary. So you, the Virgo parent, have the ability to be a great teacher to your Sag kid. You can help with preparing them for adulthood, executive function, preparing for life skills, like the details involved in life skills, such as cooking and things like this, planning, organizing, dealing with chores. You have a great ability to teach your Sag child all these things, right? And in turn, your Sag kid can help you keep in mind the big picture. For example, this is great to talk about in terms of parenting because we parents tend to get mired in the day-to-day details and, oh, I said this, I didn't do this, I should have said this, or I should have done this, or I dropped my kid off at this activity and I meant to take their phone so they won't be on their phone, but I forgot. We tend to get mired in the details, right, of day-to-day life. And it's important to remember the big picture. The big parenting picture is that we're parenting for the long haul. We're parenting to create this relationship, not to get all the details right. So this is an area where your SAG child can really help you focus and remember not to get swept up in the details all the time and to remember the big picture. Now, Virgo is a perfectionist, likes to be right, extremely competent, extremely, okay? Nevertheless, you can learn a lot from your SAG kid. SAG is a great teacher. SAG has a thirst for learning and a thirst for knowledge. So there's a real potential here for you to learn from your kid and your kid to learn from you. To do that, you have to create the situation where your child is open to learning from you. And if you're always telling them they're wrong or conveying to them that they can't teach you anything because you know everything because you're the adult, they're not going to be as likely to listen to you and learn from you. If in turn you acknowledge that you don't know everything and your SAG child has a potential to teach you a lot of things, and that's one of the ways that kids and parents bond is when kids teach parents a skill. If you are open to that, open to learning from your SAG child and thank them for teaching you things, they will in turn be more open to learning from you and taking your advice. So that's the trick here, is to create that strong attachment and relationship where you learn from each other, and in turn, your child will be more willing to at least listen to your advice, if not follow it all the time, right? And also phrasing, because Virgo is particular about language and using precision of language. Phrasing is very important here. There's a conscious communication teen coach I work with who is excellent. And I learned this from her, that when you're interacting with your kid, instead of, here's what you need to do, if you ask them, hey, would you be okay if I shared something with you that may help you? Or would I have something to share with you if it's okay to share now about what helped me in the past? May I share something with you? If you ask permission like that, and consciously communicate, kids, especially SAG kids that are very stubborn, very ego oriented, right? They will be much more willing to listen to you, at least listen to your advice, than if you try to dictate to them. Because clearly you're the parent, you're the Virgo parent, you know better. You do, clearly. That's not the issue. The issue is not whether you know better. The issue is how to guide your SAG kid, right? Get them ready for adulthood, especially as they become teenagers and it's like adulthood is looming and you're like, how am I going to prepare these kids, right? That's the issue here. There's no question that you know better. Yes, you know better. You have more life experience. So it's not convincing your kid that you know better. It's about communicating with your kid in a way that they will accept your guidance. And that's what we're going for here. And there's another big issue in this dynamic that I want to bring up that I have brought up in other videos. When you're teaching your SAG kid, an activity, a task, how to do something, how to cook, how to be handy at home. I use cooking a lot because we like to cook at home. Something we do a lot. When you're teaching them something, it's not about, the goal here is not the end result. The goal is the process. The goal is to teach your SAG child how to do things for themselves, right? To prepare them for adulthood, to help build their self-esteem, self-confidence, and teach them that they are capable of learning new things. It's not about the end result. Because Virgo is very perfectionist oriented, and this is a huge risk in this dynamic, right? With a Virgo parent. If all you care about is the end result, and you are conveying and communicating to your SAG child that, well, this was a waste of time because we didn't do it perfectly or it didn't come out right, they're going to let perfectionism be the enemy of accomplishment, right? The end goal here is not to end up with a perfect product, whether you're cooking or doing something handy or painting a picture or whatever. The goal here is to teach how to do it. Okay. The process is more important when you're teaching kids than the end result. Okay. The objective is not to make a picture perfect dish or a perfectly painted drawing or a drawing that's, in the lines. The goal here is to teach how to cook, is to teach to measure ingredients, is to teach how to use a paintbrush, how to mix colors, whatever, how to get your creative juices flowing. That's the goal. It's the process. So make sure when the Virgo parent are teaching your SAG kids something, that you don't get bogged down in creating something perfect, that you are teaching them a skill, the process, the procedure. And be patient, because your SAG kid will probably want to do things their way. Now, Virgo is also more of a controlled energy. It's an earth sign. Remember, it craves stability, predictability, wants to know what's coming next, although less so than the other earth signs, because as we said, it's mutable. But it's an energy that feels safe when it feels in control of things. It feels safe when things are predictable. So the Virgo parent may feel an urge to control their children or control environments and circumstances regarding their children to get that safety. I'm not saying that they're controlling for the sake of control. It's the control for the sake of feeling safe. But the issue with this is that Sagittarius is an energy that craves freedom, physical freedom, mental freedom, freedom to try new things. It does not do well in a overly controlled environment with helicopter parents. So Virgo tends to want to exert control because if Virgo knows how to do things better, like we said, it's an extremely competent energy. So it can be very frustrating for the Virgo parent to see their SAG child do things imperfectly or do things that they know are going to result in some unwanted consequence. But as we said, SAG needs freedom. They need freedom to do their own thing, to try out different things. SAG is about exploration, exploring new things. And maybe they try something that doesn't work out as they expected. Well, that's part of the learning process too. Not everything we do has the result or consequence that we expect. Not every good decision we make has a good result or a good outcome. So part of the challenge for Virgo is to give up that urge to control, that I call it that codependent urge to control. This idea that, well, I have to have a hand in everything and helicopter everything and control everything, environments, situations, people, or everything, goes to crap, right? That's exhausting, and it's not going to help your relationship with your kids because you cannot control everything all the time. And sooner or later, your kids, whatever age it happens, they're going to be on their own, and you're not going to be around to exert that level of control, right? So it's very important that you give your SAG kid the freedom they crave to make mistakes. And hopefully they will make mistakes, because they will make mistakes. Every kid does stuff the parents don't approve of. It's just going to happen. The hope is that when they make mistakes when they're at home with the parents, so they have ready access to guidance from parents. So that hopefully by the time they're independent and live on their own, they've learned a bit, right, about how the world works and maybe what to do and what not to do in the future. So as we said, it is essential that you honor your SAG kids' autonomy and to use the conscious communication skills I referenced just a few minutes ago. To that end, as your SAG kids gets older, they should be taking on more and more autonomy and more responsibility. That's developmentally normal. So by the time they're in, middle school and then high school, they can be expected to handle a lot of their own stuff. It's fine for you to be involved. You should be involved, but you should not helicopter and you should not control. For example, you can offer, would it be okay if I emailed your teacher about that? Or something that, an example that I used recently in my household, would you be okay if I emailed you a list of your pending work tomorrow so you have it organized and can reference it more easily, right? That's better than, I'm going to send you this email and you better do it. You better do it. They're going to be more willing to take guidance from you and do what you tell them if you use those conscious communication skills. Would you be okay with? Is it okay if? I told you that you need to email the teacher. If you want, you can copy me on the email to your teacher so I can help you stay on track or whatever else, right? Things like that. That's more of a collaborative approach, and that's an approach that will help honor your kids' autonomy. Now, importantly, if you don't honor your kids' autonomy, especially in energy like SAG, if you don't honor your Sagittarius child's autonomy, the autonomy will exert itself, possibly in very negative ways. Kids who feel that they have no control, no say, no autonomy, they express the autonomy sometimes in very unhealthy ways, right? It It could be through eating disorders. It could be through extremely defiant behavior, problematic behavior, even physical aggression, things like that. And you may think, as a rational parent, rational Virgo parent, you may think, why are they engaging in this negative activity? I don't understand, because this activity is resulting in very bad consequences to them. Why are they doing it? Well, it's not about being rational, right? It's not about the particular activity. It's not about getting into a fight, or I don't know. It's not about, wanting to fail a class or fail a test purposely. It's about being autonomous. And in that moment, the act of autonomy is what has value. It's not the particular act, failing to study, failing a test, failing a class, I don't know, getting a detention or suspension from school for whatever activity, right? Cheating on a test or getting into a fight, or I don't know, saying a bad word. It's not about those activities. It's about being autonomous. It's about being independent. And the act of autonomy, the act of opposition has value to the child, right? Or to the teen, has value because they're practicing their autonomy. So that's what has value. If you can get there, if you can understand that, that's like 90% of understanding your SAG child right there, is they need to feel that they have a say. They need to be independent and take developmental charge of themselves, consistent with normal childhood development. That's essential, right? So my point here is with a Virgo parent, there's almost always the risk of being overly controlling because of all the traits we've already talked about, and the fact that Virgo is extremely competent and knows better. And SAG is an impulsive energy. SAG is an energy that will do an activity, take an action without thinking about it. And it's going to be very frustrating for you, the Virgo parent, because you are going to see potential consequences miles away. And the SAG kid will go like headfirst into whatever, right? And will deal with the consequences on the back end. It's going to be very frustrating, but that's the nature of the energy, okay? So the best you can do is to guide your kid and maybe talk about that, Monday morning quarterback. Now, tell me about that action you did. What happened? What do you think about what happened, right? That's how you could help. But they're gonna exert their autonomy in some way. So what you have to ask yourself as a parent is, how are you going to let your kids exert their autonomy, show their autonomy? SAG kids, especially boys, may not do well sitting in a traditional school for 6 to 7 hours a day, because they have a great need to expend this physical energy they have. They need freedom of movement. So possibly, if that's an issue for you, possibly finding an alternative school environment may help, or a school environment where they can have more physical activity, right? That may be more conducive to helping them learn, because SAG also loves to learn, but it's kind of a weird thing. It's like they love to learn, but they are also very impatient and have this great need to exert physical, to release the physical energy. They need the freedom of movement. So you have to stimulate their mind, but also make sure that they get enough physical activity. And remember, the Virgo parent should always come from a place of guidance and offering advice, not dictating, not telling the SAG kid what to do, a place of guidance, especially as kids get older. So, and you can help your SAG kid problem solve. That's one thing a Virgo is excellent at, okay? And as we mentioned, you could use those conscious communication skills and kind of walk them through problem solving. Now, they may, if they share something with you, like some issue or some problem, instead of jumping in to fix it, as Virgos want to do, engage them on it. So what do you think about that? Or how do you think you should handle that? Or would you be okay if I shared something that has worked for me in the past when I dealt with a similar issue? Talking them through it and being receptive to when they share things with you, that will help them problem solve more than you telling them what to do. Because when you communicate through your actions to your SAG child that you can handle their energy, that you accept and validate how they are, that says everything right there. Yes, they're going to be very different from you, but if you can communicate to them that you accept them as they are, that you will work with their energy as it is, right? You do not expect them to change fundamentally who they are. That is everything. And that unconditional positive regard will lead your Sag child to being way more likely and willing to work with you and accept guidance from you. The last main thing I want to talk about regarding this dynamic is that Virgo has a very strong sense of duty, right? Virgo tends to be more of a serious energy, and Sag loves to have fun, okay? So let your Sag child teach you about the joys of just doing fun things just for the sake of the fun activity, just to have fun, right? Maybe an activity with no practical purpose, with no, maybe doesn't even have any objective, right? Just to do something fun. If you saw my video a few days ago about how to use Gemini energy to heal your inner child, I talked a lot about this, about the rewiring your brain to feed your limbic brain more positive experiences, right? That's part of the reparenting and inner child work. And Sag is great at this, as is Gemini. And Gemini, of course, as we know, is the opposite sign to Sag. Both of those energies love to have fun and love to do things just to have a good time, right? Even if the activity has no value other than being a pleasurable or fun activity, right? I can think of like, zip lining or dancing, or of course that's exercise too, but or VR or video gaming. They're just activities that there may be a little bit of skill involved, but it's mostly just about having fun and having a good time. Let your Sag kid teach you the joys of having fun, because it is an integral part of the reparenting process. And likewise, don't communicate to your Sag child that activities are worthless if they're only about having fun, right? We don't want to teach kids that the only activities that are worth doing are ones that are useful some way, or that have some practical purpose. Yes, life is not all about fun. It is not all about goofing off, but having fun is part of it, okay? So, and as I've said in many other videos, just having fun, doing fun activities together is a bonding experience for parent and child. Boys especially bond through physical activity and competition, okay? So any activity you can do with your Sag child that incorporates physical activity and is also fun is a great way to bond and build that connection. And remember that having fun is also beneficial for you, the parent. It's not just beneficial for your kid. So that's your homework this week. If you're a Virgo parent with a Sag kid, is find a fun activity to do, an activity that has no practical purpose, something you both can have fun doing, and do that together. That is what I wanted to talk to you about today. Please leave your comments and questions below, and we will be back very soon. Thank you.